I would just like to acknowledge Pat Holland. This is your last meeting with us. You're off to bigger and better things. It's been 6 years, and we appreciate the time you've served on this board.
Thank you.
I'll second that for sure.
All right. Agenda item A, violation notice, Nikki Castrici and Alex O'Terry, 19 Bemis Circle, Assessors Map 108, Lot 21. Is there anybody here for that? Could you please come up and introduce yourself?
My name is Alex O'Terry, live at 19 Bemis Circle.
Do you have anything to present to us?
I was just, presented with a notice 2 weeks ago from Joe about the loom that I had delivered in my yard. And I'm just here to discuss it with you guys.
All right. Joe, could you fill us in on any other details?
Yep. So driving by the house, there's about 10 to 12 piles of fill material there in the backyard. I had subsequently met with the homeowner just to access the backyard, see what the disturbance was like. So basically, it's a large soil stockpile area. Again, 10 to 12 piles. I think there's a photo log that kind of shows the extent. It's about 40 to 50 feet away. There was decent snow coverage at the time, but that is just an estimate based off of topographic information. It is all in a riverfront area and a protected resource area, and it's also near the bordering land subject to flooding or the 100-year floodplain. It's not clear whether it is within the 100-year floodplain. And I guess I wanted to confirm the area where the soil is. What was there before? Like
Just dirt, just, there was a fence there that I had taken down, but
okay,
because it was falling down, that was voted.
okay. And your intent on what you want to do with the soil is
Just reloom the whole yard to redo the grass.
okay. So the reason for the violation notice was just so you could come here, have this conversation with the commission and kind of have them guide you on what the next steps are, as far as like what type of permit is necessary, what type of information is necessary. So we can have that discussion.
So the dirt is still currently there,
Yeah, haven't done.
and it was just you want a better yard.
Yeah, basically.
So I think typically what we would ask of you is, either a notice of intent, that seems a little bit much, or a request for applicability. And I wanted to hear from the commission about whether site plans would be best.
If you file the IDA, you're gonna have to have some type of site plan, so they know what the delineation is between the wetlands, the floodplain, the 50-foot, the 100-foot, the 25-foot,
In riverfront.
and then the riverfront.
Yeah, the riverfront and the floodplain is kind of the issue. I think one of the biggest issues of just knowing where that is and making sure that nothing happens, nothing goes in there and stuff.
So I think what we've done in the past, or what the commission's done in the past, is do the delineation, like create the site plan, and then see what the impacts are actually going to be, and then make the determination as permit from there. I think if you do the delineation, you might as well just do the notice of intent. That way, there's a way for me to come back, or the commission to come back at the certificate of compliance.
So it wouldn't make sense, we definitely need a delineation, so the notice of intent, instead of having to go through the IDA and say it's a positive, then you have to go through the notice of intent, so if you go directly to the notice of intent, you should be good.
So would the alternative be that just removing all of the fill that's in there right now, or to ensure that nothing happens to it during removal, we'd still want to make sure that that's done in the proper way, so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I'm sure you don't wanna remove.
No.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at, is like,
Right, so you got two choices, either go back to original, or we go down the thing of getting somebody to delineate where the stuff is, so you know what you're gonna do. I don't think there's another choice, is there?
Well, that's it, you just said the two choices, if you remove it.
Right,
yeah.
Or you file the, notice of intent, and Joe will be able to help you with that.
Are you comfortable with,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I wouldn't wanna, remove it, I was just, my question was, if I was supposed to relume my yard, would I have to consult with you guys anyway? You know what I mean? I know it's,
because of where you're located,
Yeah.
yes, that like, unfortunately for you or fortunately for the Wetlands Protection Act, it's really just where you're located.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that you're doing it, correctly
Yeah.
and stuff, so.
Correct.
Yeah, it's,
The volume of fill comes into play as well. I mean,
Right.
it is decent amount. So,
So my suggestion would be have some type of estimate what the volume of fill is gonna be on your notice of intent.
okay,
as far as the plan, that's, getting someone, like a surveyed information as far as where the 100-year floodplain is, and then someone to flag the wetlands and riverfront
I mean,
area.
wasn't all that stuff just done when they put those, when they mapped all that out recently?
Potentially, there were some wetland flags there, I'm just not sure like when it was done or where
Yeah, I
that
mean,
plan
it was
is.
within the last year that I've noticed that, when they put all those solar panels up on top of the landfill. I'm pretty sure that whole area was surveyed.
I can look at my files to see if
Yeah.
there is something there.
Yeah, I mean, it'd save everybody a bunch of time.
You
Sure.
might wanna reach out, if you don't have it, you might wanna reach out to the solar panel company, they may just give it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can certainly check, see
Yeah,
if it's
if
there.
you wanna look into that.
Yeah. I think it was on the other side, so they might not have surveyed those flags,
Yeah,
but we'll see.
yeah, I was curious as to why they, had gone through there and tagged everything.
Yeah. But,
all right, so it looks like notice of intent, we'll be asking you to file that with us.
Okay,
Um,
is that a form or something that I can fill out? or-
yeah, it's
All online.
Okay,
At least.
it is online.
A bit
Um,
easier.
So you can go to like the Conservation Commission page on our website. It'll direct you to like a permitting portal and you can kind of go from there as far as figuring out what is necessary. You can always just call me, we can kind of talk about
yeah,
what goes into it. But yeah,
okay. Is that all you guys need from me?
yeah, I think that's it. There's no formal vote here, it's just a kind of
That's just-
discussion.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate your
thank you.
time. Thank you. All right, agenda item B, violation notice, Fabio Lima and Isabella Andresia, 237 River Road, assessors map 27, lot 19. Is there anybody here for that?
There's not, I contacted the homeowner prior to coming here. But this is kind of just, I wanted to put this on the agenda because this was something that was derived from last summer. Just wanted to provide the commission an update. So last time he was here, and the violator was here, he said that he had removed the fill and then I would go subsequently conduct a site visit. I did that site visit. There's still fill there, and most of it is outside of the no disturb zone, so I think he's just working on trying to get it outside of the no disturb zone. And then, there's probably still gonna be fill material left, so he'd still have to come in and get a permit, whether that's an RDA or a notice of intent. That's up to the commission as far as, guidance on what to do. I'm not sure if we landed on that last discussion.
My suggestion would be to send him another invite to the next meeting or the meeting after, and if not, just issue an enforcement order.
Okay, I mean, he is definitely like cooperating.
Oh, I'm not saying he's not cooperating, but, I mean, find out what meeting he can show up to. And then we can take it from there, and if he doesn't show up, just send the enforcement order.
Okay,
I mean, that would be my suggestion.
Okay. I guess my question would be, if he pulls back the fill to 25 feet, and he wants to leave everything as is, would the commission recommend doing an RDA or a notice of intent? Or should we, do you want to have that conversation when he's here?
I would have that conversation when he's here,
Okay.
with new pictures.
Would he be outside our jurisdiction at that point?
No,
No,
it's
it's
still within
Yeah.
the 100
Okay,
foot.
so, all right.
Out of the 25, it'd be,
Yeah, because that was kind of like the main thing.
yeah.
This was the one where we were 3 feet up the trees with the fill.
Yeah.
There were a few of them, but yeah. that's
Yeah,
fine.
okay, all right, I got it.
All right, so I'll
Yeah.
send out another.
Invite him down, right?
Yeah.
Right, and next item is agenda item C, exemplary discussion at VHB Inc. of Watertown, Massachusetts. Would you introduce yourself for the record, please?
Yep, Calvin Constance from VHB.
And what is it you'd like to discuss today?
So this is concerning a upcoming project for National Grid. They're proposing one soil boring within a wetland. It's located on access from Andover Street. It's in the right of way behind Highwood Drive, the office park there. And so my question is, I submitted, or VHB on behalf of National Grid submitted a maintenance notification letter to the commission for this soil boring in wetland. This is in support of maintenance work to do structure replacements of the wood structures in the right of way. But technically, soil borings, they're exempt within buffer zone under the Wetland Protection Act and your bylaw, but not technically exempt when located in wetland. And so my question was just to kind of get a sense from the commission of the nature of if an additional filing would be required for a soil boring within wetland that's in support of maintenance. And just a little bit more detail of that. Soil boring, it's approximately 4 to 6 inches of boring that'll just go into the wetland. It's in order to gain information for the subsurface for a foundation to be installed there for the structure. So it's we consider it de minimis impact, but it technically still is a very minor impact to the wetland. Temporary construction matting would be used just on the wetland surrounding areas, so there's no permanent impacts. And just wanted to have this discussion with you before moving forward with any work, and we're happy to file whatever we believe might be necessary, but just wanted to raise this before the work actually happens.
We're talking one soil boring in the wetlands?
Correct.
I don't have an issue with it.
I don't.
Okay. I live in the black and white of the regulations, so I'm just gonna go through the exercise. So it's basically what the commission interprets as maintenance activities. Because there is that general utility exemption for, maintenance activities. Sometimes that's in the form of vegetation cutting along the sides of the transmission line so that the trees don't fall on them, which is, understandable because that would happen, and we want to ensure electricity is flowing through the transmission lines. So in a separate regulatory citation within the WPA regulations, it states that this is an exempt activity within the buffer zone. It states activities that are temporary in nature, have negligible impacts, and are necessary for planning and design purposes. And it spells out such as an exploratory boring, which would be, the soil boring. And this last clause is provided that resource areas are not crossed for site access. So that would mean this is an exempt activity provided that resource areas are not crossed for site access. And so you can see where this, logic path is going. It is crossing a resource area, it's crossing the wetlands. So therefore, this would be negated and not be exempt. In addition, I don't believe we have that exemption for the soil borne within our bylaw. We do have the general maintenance exemption in our bylaw. So we have had previous projects that have been submitted for National Grid for soil borings. Granted, it's not one soil boring, but it's multiple. But the same thing applies, you know, it's a small area, de minimis amount, whatever. And the precedent has been a notice of intent. But to be fair, it's not like the applicant had come in to ask us, you know, is this necessary? But so, in years past, it's been a notice of intent.
So can you just go over the actual soil boring, how big that is, how far you go down, what equipment you use to actually accomplish that?
Sure. Yeah, so first, there's existing access within the right of way to the location. And temporary construction mats would be placed in wetland areas so that none of that's compacted or impacted during construction. And then the actual soil boring, it's on kind of this little drill rig, slightly larger than a pickup, but not as large as like an excavator or front loader or something. And essentially there's a little drill rig in back that will bore, as mentioned, a 4 to 6 inch, kind of in diameter, I don't know what it's actually called, but it drills into the ground just to look at the subsurface soils until refusal, or until it can't go any deeper. And then upon that, it will come back up, backfill the area of where the boring was taken, and then do stabilization and restoration in that area, and then mats are taken back up to then complete the work in the area. And National Grid does have an existing BMP manual and guidance that they adhere to all their projects with erosion controls, stabilization, restoration. It's always conducted for their maintenance projects.
And for this one, is the time frame May 1st to December? Is that?
It's this, we don't have an exact time frame yet, but it's this summer they're anticipated to take.
Any idea how long that process will take, putting the mats down and actually taking the boring, the soil sample?
Right, yeah, I can, to be honest, I don't know exactly. Typically, they can be done, more than one can be done in a day. So typically, you place down mats one day, or one day, another day, and then mats are taken up the next day. So within a week.
All right. What I'm trying to get at is, if it's somebody walking across wetlands, I certainly don't have a issue with that. It does sound like WPA is, you know, trying to avoid this exact situation, but with the mats, I don't know, you know, it doesn't seem like anybody else thinks it's that big of a deal, but I guess,
Well, it doesn't seem like we have the ability to just call it maintenance, because as Joe said, it's a notice of intent, is the historical on this exact thing, correct?
That's correct. Have you asked this in other towns?
So this project's happening in Lawrence and Andover as well. We've reached out to Andover and asked the same question. There's quite a few more borings in Andover, so we're anticipating a greater filing because it's on the magnitude of like 15 to 20 borings, and just that amount of matting and the amount of borings, just, you know, more, little bit warrants more of an NOI, where this is just one, and we again wanted to get the commission's take on this. Whether an NOI is necessary, and you know, we want to be respectful of everyone's time here, but understand that, you know, if a filing is required, that we're happy to do that.
I guess I don't know, I just feel like I'm obligated to say this, but my recommendation would be I'm never gonna recommend against the letter of the WPA, because that's my job to advise you guys. So, I know it does seem silly because those mats could go down either way for maintenance. They always lay down those mats. That's why they're there. And it is silly because it is, you know, it's arguably more disturbance during some of the maintenance activities, but a technicality is a technicality.
so right now, I mean, this is just a discussion. I'm leaning more towards what Joe is saying, but we're not taking a vote on this, I think you should do the NOI, but if you choose not to, then I guess you risk, WPA mess, the state coming after you. I don't know what your risk tolerance is for that.
Yeah, so
I agree, it's not that big of a issue to take two soil borings, but.
yeah, one additional thing is we are filing a verification notification under the Army Corps under survey activities. It's covered under the general permit, and that's applicable to National Grid's existing agreement with DEP per their comprehensive water quality cert. So this is tied into survey activities, that technical term for both the Army Corps and the state. So we are filing with the state, and it's more of just, the local bylaw that we're inquiring about.
So like Mass DEP wouldn't require you to file?
It's qualifies as a survey activity for Mass E DEP.
Because I know the matting is covered under the 401.
Right.
And like, there's like a general agreement that like, you don't include the matting as like impacts to the wetlands.
Right, they're temporary impacts.
Right,
Obviously.
right, but it's not supposed to be quantified in the notice of intents, I believe. Just because there's like,
Right.
yeah,
It is, right, the matting.
Yeah,
itself
yeah.
is exempt.
but
Any further discussion?
I mean, it's infrastructure, I mean, I
Yeah.
can't,
I gotta say, not filing anything, just do what he's gotta do. Make it
Yeah, we've had
I mean,
other-
for 1 day or 2 days,
Yeah.
and to go through the process, then they gotta come back here and they're not getting anything done. The electric rates are gonna double.
did you say
It's supposed to be going down.
Yeah, we've had other commissions consider the de minimis like terminology in like kind of the rationale, but I know that's not, necessarily in the Wetlands Protection Act itself or your bylaw. I know it is a gray area,
Yeah.
as I spoke to Joe about this too.
yeah, my feeling is do it. Because it just, I can't see the paperwork involved and that's right, I mean, somehow the big circle comes back to the consumer of the electricity, I mean.
And you're only making one hole?
One boring, correct. I have a map too, I don't know if that helps to.
So I guess if this comes to me and like I said, I'm gonna advise you, you guys can form your own opinion based off the facts. Like if this comes to me again, I'm still going to hold my own interpretation. And we're gonna have to have the same meeting
Right.
for every time.
I respect
That's-
your thing, is we're just trying to, I mean, I hate to use this term, is we're trying to add some common sense to this. We're gonna do negligible impact. You're gonna stomp the dirt down and leave.
And like the de minimis amount, like, I don't wanna go on record and say, oh, well, 2 soil borings, that's de minimis, but when you're doing 3, that's
Yeah.
no longer. I think it might be a case by case basis that if you guys come back and say, all right, now we're gonna do 20 or however many there are, then we might, reconsider, especially where it's located, and things like that. But I think for this time,
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why I'm coming here from VHB as a consultant and not, I know we're representing a client, it's not the client itself, inquiring or requesting this.
I agree with Joe, like, the next time something like this comes up or this comes up, like, we're gonna have to have a similar conversation because there's just gonna be different circumstances. But for this one, I'm fine with it.
I'm all set.
All right.
Great. Appreciate your input. Yeah, I know it's an interesting discussion, but thank you again for putting us on the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, agenda item D, public hearing, request for determination of applicability, Dana F. Perkins, Inc. of Tewksbury, Massachusetts, on behalf of Bella Woods Condominium, C.O. Silva Associates, Tewksbury, Massachusetts, 43 Kensington Way, Assessors Map 89, Lot 34, Unit 66. Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Yeah, good evening. My name's Andy Bajasic. I work for Dana Perkins. We're here tonight on behalf of Bella Woods Condominium. And we are proposing to install a stone infiltration trench in the backyard of the unit located at 43 Kensington Way. There's an existing landscape berm that runs along the units that are adjacent to the wetlands out there. While this is great from keeping the homeowners out of the wetlands area, unfortunately, the majority of the backyards all slope down and they kind of flatten out behind this particular unit. So in day-to-day storms, not that big a deal. Specifically a couple years ago when everywhere was flooding, the water just sits in their backyard. So it's our understanding that this landscape berm wasn't part of the design plans as far as we can tell. We did not do the original design, but it appears that it's been there for a while. So rather than, putting structures in or tying into the wetlands, essentially we're just installing a stone trench in the backyard to capture and recharge any storm water that ponds there.
All right. Any questions or comments from the commission?
How far away from the 20,
We're about 35 feet from the wetlands, but the landscape berm that runs behind the units, it's tall. It's probably 3-4 feet high. It provides a very good buffer from the lawns to the wetland.
that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. I don't have an issue with it.
Joe, do you have anything
Yep.
to say?
So just like the applicant stated, there is this trench is going in an existing yard. So it's not like it's disturbing any other natural vegetation. The applicant's also correct, there is like a 3-foot berm, maybe not 3 feet, I don't know. But it's significant enough where if the commission issues a negative determination of applicability, there's really no need for sediment controls because that berm is the sediment
Is the
control.
sediment control, yeah.
The only thing I would recommend if a negative determination is issued is that no soil stockpiling or storage of other materials over the berm, towards the wetlands, or on top of the berm. But otherwise, it's an existing yard, so I don't have any issues.
Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, absolutely. It should be a pretty quick job.
Yeah.
We'll be looking to get the dirt out of there ASAP, especially for the homeowner or the homeowners.
All right, if there's no further discussion from the commission, this is a public hearing. And if there's anybody from the public who would like to get up and ask a question or make a comment, now is the time to do so. But not seeing anybody, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. And could I have a negative determination of applicability for Dana F. Perkins, Inc. of Tewksbury, Mass. on behalf of Bella Woods Condominium, C.O. Silva Associates, Tewksbury, Massachusetts, 43 Kensington Way, Assessors Map 89, Lot 34, Unit 66, as discussed at this meeting?
With the restrictions that Joe had mentioned.
Yes.
And I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Agenda item E, public hearing, request to amend an order of conditions, Goddard Consulting LLC of Northborough, Mass. on behalf of Rhino Capital Advisors LLC of Boston, Mass., 30 Commerce Way, beyond Tewksbury, Mass. 101876, Assessors Map 23, Lot 18 and 19, DEP file number 305-1162. Could you please introduce yourselves for the record?
My name is Tyler Murphy, I'm the applicant with Rhino Capital, and Andrew Tebow here from Gutter Consulting as well.
Thank you. And what would you like to present today?
So our goal was to, as you mentioned, amended order of conditions. We've made some site changes that we wanted to review with the commission and talk about the changes and impacts to the resource areas, which I think are all positive, but certainly a change, and want to go through that with the board. So our first page here is basically just the history of our meetings. The project was originally designed back in the early part of 22, and obviously a lot of things have changed since then in the macro environment, which have caused changes on our end for the site. So that's sort of what drove things here, which we'll go over on the next page. We got our comments on March 10th. We were in front of the planning board last week presenting these changes. They did vote and approve the site plan changes, which was good. And obviously now we're in front of the conservation board here. The next page here is the proposed site plan. So on the left is the building and overview of the site plan that you originally saw during our hearings. That was an 87,000 square foot L-shaped building. And on the right, this is our proposed site plan, and that's what was submitted, the full plan set to the commission. And it's just a more traditional building. It is smaller, of course, and by shrinking the building, essentially, we're able to make some improvements to the resource areas by essentially increasing distance from some buffer zones, some other small changes that Andrew's going to go over on the next page here. But essentially, it's really just a more conventional design, more conventional shape, and thus has a better chance of obtaining a tenant in the marketplace.
Great, thank you, Tyler. Yeah, so I'm happy to jump into the resource area impacts now. As part of the project redesign, essentially we had the engineers go take a look at everything we were doing, see where we could make improvements, where we could realign things. So as you'll see here, we zoomed into our site entry. So the old road we had proposed is shown in like an opaque gray color, kind of curves along that retaining wall. So we found out that by shifting that road just slightly left, roughly in the same area, we were actually able to cut it all the way down from 5,083 square feet to 4,835 square feet. That's a mix of BBW and we avoided, and then the stream relocation, there was 383 linear feet originally being moved. We cut that down to 315. You'll see in the stream relocation plan that I submitted, as part of this as well, we're now able to replant both sides of that stream. Originally, we could only replant one side and run it along the retaining wall. This gave us some grading room to grade down, keep it off the retaining wall, plant both sides. And we did not change our wetland replication areas, so we cut down our impacts, kept the same replication, so now instead of a 1.2 to 1, it's like a 1.25 to 1, just positive site impact there. On the next sheet you guys see, once again, similar to the sheet Tyler showed you, on the left was the original L-shaped building, on the right is our new shaped building. So the one thing to note here is there is a net decrease in impervious surface totals. So Tyler mentioned that the building was originally 87,000 square feet. They've cut it down to a square shape, 65,790 square feet. So this has helped utilize more of the area that was originally approved in the limit of work to be used for parking. So there's no longer a waiver required for the parking for the site. It's able to meet all of its needs. And we were able to do that while still cutting down the total impervious surface on site by 1.7%. So a net decrease to that as well. And then we did the same overlay for our grading plans. The most important thing to note here, northwest corner of the site, that isolated wetland that we demarcated in the D series, we originally proposed to grade right up to the 25. We were able to pull that roughly 10 to 15 feet off that line, just a bit away from the 25-foot buffer, as shown in the grading plan here. So from our end, the redesign really kind of allowed for net decrease to the resource area themselves, as well as the buffer zones. So although changes are all positive, it is changes to the limit of work. So we just are here to get a new order of conditions from you guys to allow for these changes to be implemented.
Any questions or comments from the commission?
I just have one. So what, of all the conditions that was applied to you, what condition do you want amended?
I think it's really a site plan change. Yeah, specifically, because we've changed the site plan, and some of these calculations, although I know they're minor, it's 1.7% and it's this many feet, it changes a change, and we want to make sure that we have the accurate plan on file, and plan set on file. So I don't think there's any specific condition in the order of conditions that we're looking to amend. It's really just, kind of swapping A for B, applying all the same conditions to it, because the plan really is, when you look at them side by side, from a 5,000 foot view, they look the same. It's just a different building. The extent of grading, the extent of the site is very, very minor changes, but those minor changes are positive from a resource area impact perspective, which is good.
Yeah, and I can jump in on that. So Joe and I had discussed early on if this would be a minor plan change versus an amended order of conditions. And since we had wetland impacts, we were going to be doing as-built plans for the wet rep and the stream relocation. So it seemed to be a little bit too major for, although positive, too major for a minor plan change. So just to get a new order of conditions for the work, to get all the numbers to the impacts all kind of adjusted. That's kind of where this all came from.
Okay, I have no more questions. That was the only one I had. So we're just here to amend the plan.
Amend the plan. I was gonna go through some questions on that.
Okay.
And so basically, we're building a square building versus the other one.
Yes.
And you're gonna have less impervious, and we're still gonna apply the same conditions as the previous, correct?
Yeah, so it's still gonna be the same conditions. And then this is kind of just an amendment to discuss the changes from the previous site plan.
And the stream is gonna have, instead of a rock wall along one side, it's gonna have actual banks on both sides.
Yes, yeah, so that retaining wall is still being proposed along the road, but we were able to grade it off so that the stream bank's not running along and it's running just offset. And now the shrub's proposed on both sides. And that new plan was submitted with this package for your records as well, so that's in there.
And if there's no other questions or comments from the commission, Joe, do you wanna
Sure.
go over yours?
Yeah, so one question I had that we had discussed, and these are all gonna be kind of regurgitating our conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the project, as it was permitted, requires an as-built to be submitted to the commission within 30 days following the completion of the wetland replication areas. I guess just looking at this again, whether it would be appropriate to have that's like a same as-built for the stream relocation plan, which was, it's just another element to the project. So there's the wetland replication, and then the stream relocation, which is a major part of the project. But, whether the commission thought that would be appropriate, provided that the applicant is amenable to that, of having that as-built done for the stream relocation.
So, yeah, and so, because basically the way it's written right now is that there is an as-built required for the wetland replication.
Yeah.
To show that, hey, we complied with what we proposed, and you're saying we should do an additional concept as-built for the stream relocation as well.
Suggesting it.
And that wasn't previously
Wow.
contemplated.
I would say we'd have to do to get the certificate of compliance. You
We
know,
would need it anyways for the certificate of compliance,
Yeah.
which are compliant, so.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, it would be done anyways for the certificate of compliance, but at least just putting that as a separate condition kind of gets us the information that we're primarily concerned with, so that we just don't get that like 3 or 5 years down the road. Sometimes it just doesn't get done, so
Understood, yeah. That's fine with us.
as long as you guys are,
I think it's a great idea.
okay. So that would be a condition amended to the order. So with the changes, it changes the snow storage areas. It is called out on the site plans that were provided. I believe it's on the north-facing side of the building. I don't know if we originally talked about snow storage and signage, but whether the commission would want the snow storage signs to be posted along the guardrails near the resource areas that abut the project. Because we do have the Conservation Commission signs.
Did we require this on the original?
The commission signs, yeah.
So I would stick with that, it still is one of the conditions.
But so it's, that sign is just like this is a wetland resource area, do not touch. I know sometimes we have like the snow storage, like no snow storage, something like that.
Was that a-
Just a thought.
So the snow storage signs were not required for the original, like next to the stream? Or where are you talking about?
Yeah, next to the stream.
They
Wasn't-
were required.
It was not.
It was not required.
To my understanding, it was just the conservation signs. the do
Yeah,
not
just
disturb.
conservation commission signage we had.
I
I'm
thought
not
we
gonna-
had,
I
like-
don't want, I don't think we'd have to deal with the snow storage signs because I want to add to something that we've already approved.
Okay. It's totally fine. Besides the first condition we just did? Okay. All right, well, this is another potential add-on, but when we first did this, we did the no disturb zone signage. There was none suggested in the northwestern corner of the wetlands. But they're adding, yeah.
I'm gonna repeat myself again and say, we approved it. I'm not adding any more burden onto the builder or to these gentlemen.
So does that, just to be clear, does that logic track for the first one? For the as-built for the stream, or do you want that?
I want the new as-built,
For the stream?
right?
Okay.
Because now that actually changed,
Yeah, okay.
you know, we're not,
Fair enough, yeah. So it, by the way, just going back to that as-built, it would be the same, language used for the replication, like within 30 days following?
Yeah, understood.
So 30 days following the completion of stream relocation. I think that's all I had. But overall, good improvement, so.
Yeah, I think the stream is an overall better, plan and the building, if it fits, your plans, then, great, and less impervious surfaces is, always better too. Any other questions or comments from the commission?
have not.
I'm good.
Just
This,
a quickie, didn't this have a fence or a boundary around it? Around the driveway, the parking?
There's a guardrail.
That's,
In
I think why we,
some areas, yes.
I think that's why we didn't go with snow storage and stuff, because you have designated areas. I mean, if you're pushing snow through a guardrail, boy, you're working. I'm trying to recall, I remember, when we went through this, it was like, okay, designated, and then we asked, what's this, and it's a guardrail, and I'm like, well, okay, well. No, I'm good.
It's not that hard to push snow over.
Well, I'm
depends
just
on what
saying,
equipment you have, but yeah.
I mean, there's a will, there's a way, but.
Yeah.
All right, if there's no further discussion, this is a public hearing, so I'll open it up to the public, but not seeing anybody. Could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Somebody's gotta do it.
Oh,
Practice.
can't be Joe.
Yeah.
Who wants to make the motion?
I motion.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
I will lend a pad, this is his last ride. Great.
All right,
He quit already.
the public hearing is closed. Could I have a motion to approve the amended conditions? Could I have a motion to approve the amended order of conditions for Goddard Consulting LLC of Northborough, Massachusetts, on behalf of Rhino Capital Advisors LLC of Boston, Massachusetts, 30 Commerce Way / Beyond, Tewksbury, Massachusetts, 01876, assessors map 23, lot 18 and 19, DB file number 305-1162, as discussed at this meeting. Do I
So
have-
moved.
Did you get it?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Guys are throwing me for a loop.
We're losing a guy, so we're out of sync now.
Lose, we're throwing them out.
Thank you.
We're in.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You closed the public hearing, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the big delay.
Yeah. All right, agenda item F, public hearing, notice of intent, John G. Crow Associates, Inc. of Bedford, New Hampshire, on behalf of Raytheon Technologies, Inc. of Andover, Massachusetts, 100 Apple Hill Drive, Tewksbury, Massachusetts, assessors map 38, lot 2, DP file number not yet assigned. Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Sure, thank you. Scott Doty, principal at John G. Crow Associates, civil engineers and landscape architects for Raytheon. And is it safe to assume that you guys have copies of the plans on the computers in front of you? Is that what you have? I just presumed that, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Otherwise, I can grab that easel, so my easel. A little bit of paperwork first. And I don't know, Mr. Chairman, whether you want Joe to give a summary where we are, and then I fill in the blanks, or he give it, and he fills in the blanks. But in the meantime, he did ask for us to provide a clean existing conditions plan as part of the set of plans, because we were just putting them underneath our plans as it's a PLS stamp plan by Perkins.
Thank you.
You guys know them.
Thank you.
You know them. Because we had, though we credited them with the work, we didn't include it as a separate sheet. So it's not new information, but it's just formatted differently. And I guess I talked, so I didn't really hear your answer to my question, Mr.
Joe,
Chairman.
do you have a preference, or do you want to fill us in, or?
Sure, I'll go first. I never get to go first.
It's okay. If there's something we talked about, and I think maybe you didn't say,
Yeah.
I'll mention it.
Wow. So this project is for the replacement of two culverts, and 2 or 3 drainage, I think it's 3 drainage pipes as well.
Yep.
So ultimately, bless you.
That's you.
This application is being filed as a limited project. And so this is kind of what some other things may be predicated off of in this application. So it's being filed as a limited project under 10.533K in the regulations. And that is for the routine maintenance and repair of road drainage structures, including culverts and catch basins, drainage easements, ditches, water courses, and artificial water conveyances to ensure flow capacities which existed on the effective date of 310 CMR 10.51 through 10.60, or April 1st, 1983. So one of the questions that the commission has to answer and determine is whether this project qualifies as a limited project and whether they want to permit it as a limited project. It is the commission's discretion to permit it as a limited project. And again, as a reminder, permitting it under a limited project allows some of the performance standards to not be waived, but just waived when there's no like practical alternative, or when it's necessary, basically. So part of that limited project citation is whether it's considered routine maintenance, in my interpretation. So there's impacts to wetlands, banks, land underwater potentially, depending on how you read the regs. And so that's all quantified. It's not based off of a delineation, it's based off of topographic information, so there wasn't a wetland delineation done recently. But it is based off of like topographic information. So whether the commission is okay with that. So things that get addressed when you do a stream crossing replacement or drainage structure replacement, there's stream crossing standards, which have not been addressed, but the applicant can speak more as far as, you know, where that lies. In addition to stormwater standards, which haven't been addressed, and again, the applicant can speak to that. And there isn't like really a change in what they're doing, they're kind of just replacing the pipes in kind. But nonetheless, it's again, a technicality. And then within this application, they also address the violation, which was noted, and which will be, we can discuss that as a separate topic as agenda item F, I believe, or G.
Geez, I might suggest that we, if as an agenda item, you open it up at the same time, since the notice covers that anyway. It's kind of opened already, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good start, and then if you want to take it from there.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, as Joe points out, we present this as a limited project. Really, I don't think we have an alternative. It's work that's necessary to repair these culverts and pipes. Are they routine? I would say, at the age they are and materials that were installed, I would consider that to be routine. Hopefully with the ones we're putting in now, it'll be routine in 100 years as opposed to 45 years. But I think you're gonna see a lot of these type of culvert repair, maybe as infrastructure gets from the early 80s and late 70s gets projects get, probably gonna see a lot of it. But limited project, because we have to do work in small areas of resources at the inlets and outlets of these culverts. There's no really two ways about it. The key to the work is minimizing the impact, and that the fact, I guess, that is mitigating, so to speak, is the fact that the channel, the stream channel that we're working with is an intermittent stream, and it's a man-made and altered channel. Rock bottom, rock slope throughout most of it, and there are some very clearly discernible limits to the flow bed, and then the next layer of elevation, which there is some wetland vegetation on it. Along with those limited projects come some considerations that if this wasn't I call these relatively small disturbance areas at the ends of each of the pipe, they're not, even together, they don't amount to a great deal of alteration. But nonetheless, it would be the commission to consider it whether or not a wildlife habitat analysis is called for in this type of instance. And we present the fact is that there's negligible, if at all, any significant wetland, wildlife habitat associated with the immediate entrance, immediate discharge of culvert pipes like these. Especially when one considers the extent to which this is a high security campus, fenced, and there's really no pass through, so to speak, of habitat. You will see turtles, you will see frogs in some of these wet areas, no doubt. I think you see them everywhere, but nothing unique and nothing endangered, nothing rare that's mapped in the area. So we consider that, please consider that a request for a waiver from that requirement should you want to be considering it. Another aspect of it that Joe rightfully points out is that when something like this happens, an intermittent stream or maybe a river even, but these being intermittent flows that this culverts handle, is the Massachusetts stream crossing standards. And Joe brought them up, but I pointed out to him and I pointed out to the commission that those standards are really called for the enhancement, creation, or preservation of corridors, wildlife corridors specifically, to make that stream crossing as much like a natural stream as possible. And they are, when you look at the standards for the stream crossing, you can see the calling out for sunlight, openness, much in situations not where you would just have these are we're calling these culverts, but they're pipes under driveways and under an embankment. It's not a regularly flowing or open stream channel in which there is, and I think you probably, if you read my cover letter, how I addressed that issue in Joe's initial comments, was to say that we really would have to, I'd like to add to that and say, in order to create that kind of situation, we'd have to raise the driveway up, create more air space. So at least the smallest vertebrates or animals could get through and live in that environment. But these are dozens of feet long and they're rather narrow and short. And we'd have to disturb a lot more wetland in order to create that kind of situation. Just want to, I guess I'll constantly come back to this. We just want to replace these pipes. Is really what it comes down. The other point that Joe made, and I agree, is the stormwater standards. We were, of course, asking the commission to recognize the fact that we're simply replacing the flow, the conveyance of the flows in these closed pipes, including the three that we're doing that we've added to. One of them was partially completed under the emergency order that we had earlier this winter in this project. So again, all of these are pipe replacements, and we're not changing hydrology, we're not changing hydraulics. What we did do in the new set of plans that you received, you can see that we have a broader key map that shows where everything is located. And when you get to the pages, the sheets that cover the pipe replacements, not the culvert replacements, but the outlet pipe replacements, I think it's on L5, you can see the original design cross-section of those pipes, of how they were originally designed on the original plans in 1980 and constructed, I think, in 81, where they're actually pipes that have kinks in them, so they go with the slope down the hill. And so, as a result, those pipes are going to be relatively easy and quick to replace. The other aspect that we need to cover, of course, is the sediment removal. And we provided both on the plans and also a copy in text narrative to the package you received, a one page of, to find my own, of the plan for sediment removal of wetlands. And of course, the first, I hope you had a chance to read that. It could put you to sleep, I suppose, but.
Excuse, do you want to open up the next agenda item if we're going to talk about that?
Well, I'm sorry, I should get that confirmation from
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with discussing the violation notice at the same time.
It's in the order. When we met last, we said, let's resubmit, put it in the order, expand the scope of this, it should be notice of intent, expand the scope of the notice of intent. So I think by default it is, yet I do believe you probably have to vote on it as a separate issue, as Joe points out.
Yeah, I just didn't know if you wanted to announce agenda item, whatever is going to be combined with this hearing, or public meeting, whatever, but
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah, I think that, it sounds to me though, there's unanimous consent there from the commission to do that. So I think we'd be hard pressed to find anybody objecting to that. The most important part of that sediment removal plan, of course, is the first step, actually, but now that the snow is melted, or pretty much melted. I did drive by the site, there's still piles of snow in the upper regions of the parking lot where they plow it to. But is reconnaissance and a review of what's there to make sure that the tasks that we've outlined beyond that are suitable for the amount of sediment that we find down there. And we certainly hope to do that soon with Joe also taking a look at it with us and agreeing in the field. So there's some flexibility, I think, that we see that I think that we would suggest that the commission give some flexibility and authorization to the conservation administrator to help make those kind of decisions in the field, and whether or not we then need to maybe make this more robust than it is, or we're comfortable with it and make those kind of calls and report back to the commission. The other aspect that is a bit unusual with the submittal because of the timing of it, getting this in, is trying to get this in before any pipes failed, and of course we had one that failed, but the culverts that we originally filed for didn't, was wetland delineation. As Joe correctly points out, you'd probably be able to see if you were able to drill down on the topographic plans that are underneath our design work, and also they're also more clearly in the plans, though the copies you all have are reduced. There's two full-size plans there too, Joe, of the same plan. That the channels, the rock line channel that the stream runs down between the two culverts is well defined with rock bottom, slate rock edges for the regular flow, the ordinary flows, and then the area that you would consider bordering on that in terms of where there is some wetland vegetation is rather well defined by the next major break in fill slopes or rock walls along the majority of that run. So I think it would be, now that considering that we're going to start seeing stuff come up and sprout, that it would be sensible for us, and now that the work's probably not going to be being done in the winter, that we, again, respectfully requesting that we get a closed hearing and an order issued so we get the work. But part of that first step of work would be to stake and, as necessary, flag those areas, immediate areas right by the inlets and outlets to those culverts, so that everyone's got their eyeball on them. We know how we really know what's being protected. Anybody going by could see that, and then we would if we would make a call again in the field, my wetland guy and Joe or myself would be to if there's anything that appears now that would need some special protection, that we would take those steps. And so we'd ask that you also provide the administrator with that same kind of flexibility. Again, I think that this is, we need to replace these pipes, get in and out of there. These aren't long projects. I think there's probably maybe I would say 2 weeks of work at the most to get these done. I think the contractor would hear tell me he's going to get it done faster than that. I can tell you and it would likely be McKay Construction who does a lot of the work at Raytheon's facilities. Though James McKay also tells me he thinks that I'm calling out for more wetland alteration than he thinks he needs to do. And I said, that's great. Prove me wrong. But I don't want to have to come back and talk about, geez, we had to adjust this because we need to fix this. I'd rather have him work within these constraints and then prove to me, and we're not giving him carte blanche at all about like, oh yeah, go do whatever you want to do. I think it's a reasonable area of work zone that we've given them, though they're still rather small on either end. But you do have to get machinery down there. You do have to get in and out, and And so there's gonna be some stuff to rebuild, replant as we put together a rather good restoration plan and grass plantings and shrub plantings. I think beyond if you were to go out there yourself, the wetland resources that are actually out there now. So it's gonna be an upgrade in that regards, I think. So what else, what did I miss, Joe? Did I miss anything? Let me see, I go down these notes here. We talked about limited project, mass cross standards, waiver, wildlife habitat. Oh, land under water bodies and resource and waterway resource, you indicate, yeah, it depends on how you read it. But really, it's the stream, nor these culverts, or the stream going through it, are really land underwater. They're not ponding, they don't pond. They're not waterway resource as per the definition, Massachusetts definition either. Waterway is, quote, any area of water and associated submerged land or tidal flat lying below the high water mark of any navigable river or stream, or any great pond, or any portion of the Atlantic Ocean within the Commonwealth, which is subject to the Mass General laws, Mass regulations. So, I know there's been a lot of talk about what are waters of the United States when it comes to Army Corps. You see them on the news every day now these days, now that the Republicans control the House. But I don't believe that these culverts are replacing, and the areas immediately above them and below them, where the water goes in and out, are waterways per se. So, is there anything else? And we talked about the violation. So I think, and I think our client would agree, is that probably there's suitable information for, perhaps it's been submitted and reviewed by the commission, and perhaps the hearing can be closed, and that Joe could probably draft up an order of conditions. That's what, I don't know what your normal protocol is. I've been in front of you guys for determination of applicabilities in the past, but not an order. Our firm has been in front of Tewksbury in an order for many years, actually. So.
I don't think we can close this because we don't have a.
There was a DEP file number.
Oh, there were,
Yeah, oh yes, that's right, thanks, Joe. Yeah, we did get a DEP file number, I think on Friday or Monday. No, yeah, you didn't have it on Thursday, no, when you did the agenda.
I think there was.
But I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
does anybody
I
have?
mean, the only thing is,
I have no
we talked about the violation order, and we said, once it dried up, you'd figure out how to get the crap out of that
Yeah.
area, and leaving it up to Joe for a best practices on site makes sense.
And I think we do have a good guideline already, a good backbone that we've submitted that talks about the steps we're gonna take, inventory it, put erosion control around it, and manual methods for removal
Right.
of it. And if it turns out that, wow, a lot got down there in that breakout, then maybe we might have to do something more elaborate. But I don't think we are. From what I can see, I don't think it is. It doesn't appear to be. I've been down there myself. I'll probably get down there soon though now.
So the DEP file number is 305-1177. By the way, this property in our assessor's database is 100 Apple Hill Drive, but it's also 50 Apple Hill Drive.
I almost wrote you an email on that because it's really, Dan really insisted I put 50 on the application when we redid it. I said, Joe, I said, Dan, the assessor's plan, the addresses, it says 100. There's two buildings there, as you know, two major buildings. One's 50, 100. The mailing address they use is 50.
Okay.
But the assessor's address is 100. But fortunately, the parcel number is the
Yeah.
same for both of them and all that, the deed's the same. So I succumbed and I changed it, and I should have left it.
So. Like you said, the pipes should be replaced for drainage. So I don't object to that. again, I just have to read the regulations for what they are, inform the commission, and the commission can make their decision. I advise them to, go with whatever the WPA and our bylaw state when it's black and white. So like we've heard from the applicant, it's a lot of it is, asking for these waivers for, compliance with certain performance standards such as, the wildlife habitat evaluation, other, addressing stormwater standards, even though it's not, like you said, there's no change in impervious surface, but it's still like kind of just talking about it in a narrative, or I guess you talked about it at this meeting, but
It is in a narrative, Joe, it is in the package, this, all that is outlined in the package of why it doesn't apply, it was from the
that's right.
start.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I hope you don't mind me interrupting you, Ms. Swan.
Stream crossing standards that was discussed.
It's addressed in the narrative in the letter that we submitted most recently.
Well, I guess that would be,
That's in response to your original comments.
right, but there's, I guess, a difference of opinion there as far as what part of the regulation applies at 310 CMR 10.538. So I guess that's what I was.
On the stream crossing, it is?
Yes. It's to address it to the maximum extent practicable, which is to address it to the maximum extent practicable, is 10.538, but you have provided a, I guess, argument of in-kind replacement. But anyways, I was just pointing out the various, like, waivers essentially, which are predicated on the limited project and whether the commission would want to permit this as a limited project. And that, again, is based on, routine maintenance and how the commission defines
Well, it is maintenance. I wouldn't say it's routine.
Well,
but
it's routine,
maintenance.
it's end of life of
Yeah.
a system, essentially. I consider that routine. You put something in the ground that's supposed to last 30 years, and you get 40 out of it, good for you. And we're not changing anything, essentially.
That's correct.
This is basically an R&R, remove and replace and go down the road. With hopefully superior materials.
Yeah, I don't know if you read we're using a more durable pipe,
Yep,
got a heavy duty
yeah,
coating on
not
it.
galvanized.
Yeah,
steel, right?
it is a metal pipe again, because we want to go with the elliptical shape, so we're not changing any of the flow characteristics.
Right.
But it's got a heavy duty coating on it.
Yep. Are you guys okay with a limited project?
I am,
I don't see, from my take, I think we rubber stamp this and let them start digging.
I agree.
if it lasted 30 years and then it's failed,
You
you
could
just
just
not
back it
go with
15.
it anymore, like, I think most people would say, no, that is routine that you would replace it after the life cycle.
Yeah, I would hope the commission would see it that way. It's,
It's common sense.
I haven't done a pipe replacement like this in any other way. I don't know what else you would do besides do it as a limited project, because we have to be in the resource area at the top and bottom end of these pipes.
So I think that's fine, however the commission feels. I think for when we do deal with culvert replacements, it's to address, like a big thing is to address the stream crossing standards, and you do want to, like the applicant said, it is more for like wildlife corridors and to improve like stream crossing of animals that access that stream. But like you said, there's,
Yeah, these
it's in the
pipes
middle of
are,
a parking lot, but
these pipes are double pipes that are about 18, 20 inches high by maybe 30 inches wide. So we might get some turtles and stuff going up them, but they're long. I mean, it's a long, dark, and steep tunnel, that's for sure.
Yeah, this is the middle of a parking lot, not in the middle of the Chandler.
It is at the top and bottom end of the parking lot, and then between them is a rather nice intermittent stream, man-made, albeit man-made, but it's rather nice, there's a bridge over it. When it's flowing, it's nice to listen to, people enjoy walking across the pedestrian bridge. But no one really gets their eyeballs on it except at the pedestrian bridge.
We should tax them for a water view.
Well, this is, it's been talked about. Knowing
saying that
Raytheon,
for the
knowing
new
Raytheon,
select
they'll put up opaque fences on either side.
Those things you put the quarters in, you can view. Links to
That's
national
right.
parks.
But I don't want to make light of this, but it is an important it is important to get these replaced and.
So if the commission is, or I can read off my conditions in case the commission is willing to approve the project, or my suggested conditions.
Yeah,
And if I may say one more thing, I make a suggestion, and I know that it's in their zone right now. If the commission wished to get something out of this project that would help the environment, I think one of the things I know that Raytheon would be willing to do, and I'm not giving away the store here. And I'm on TV, and there might be some folks from Raytheon, because I know Dan and I have talked about this. I think he trying to get his overall facility people in tune with doing regular O&M plans on their properties, okay? And that, I think that would be the next task. Now, this is could be self-serving, because I could be making work for myself at the same time, but he could be hiring anybody to do it, actually. We need a consultant in the area, so I guess I'm not really. And who knows, he might be unhappy with me right now. So I might give it to somebody else. But one of the things I think you should add as a condition to this project is operations and maintenance, regular inspections of these things so we don't have failures again. Regular update on what's happening on how the site's cleaned and how sites are wept and how the catch basins are cleaned out annually at least. Those kind of things I think are important on a campus this large. That would be my suggestion for the commission. Maybe something as simple as the submittal of an O&M plan for the campus within the next year, something like that. And then they get on a regular basis of reporting to the conservation office about, hey, annually, this is what we've done. We cleaned the catch basins this date. We trucked the catch basins, or I don't think we have any Vortechnics units on that site. But we repaired this curbing because there was a problem there, so the drainage is working correctly. Those type of things. It might not be an elaborate one, but if there ever is a major reconstruction there, then you would need to add things to it. So that's my suggestion. That may make it. I don't try to give away the shop, and I'm not trying to make it more complicated either. But I think that's a helpful thing that the commission would value.
if that were a condition to perform routine maintenance and send a report to us, how often,
Annually.
annually or?
We generally do it at other campuses for Raytheon and other clients that have larger multi-building campuses. On an annual basis, we make a report. And we judge from between the first two cleanings, how often we need to do it. If the sumps are full more than halfway, but at the second cleaning, then we know we better, if they're less than halfway, we know we're probably good on an annual basis to clean them out. If we ever interpret them to be, if we ever see them with more than half full, then we say we better go to twice a year. Those kind of things. We can write up a pretty nice O&M plan that I think you might, and then we can comment on it, go back and forth, and then get something that's a regular fixture that could help prevent these kind of things, actually. That failure.
I like the idea, I would just handle that not as part of this hearing, but maybe an amended or something to that nature. like amended to this permit? I just, without like actual documentation to review.
See, the problem with that is if you add that to the motion and, because it's not mandatory to report that to the town, so.
Yeah.
Other businesses are gonna say,
Well-
well, now we have to do this because he said. So,
Well, that's fair, and I appreciate Joe's point, and I appreciate everyone's point on that, your point also, Mr. Holland. I guess I can pretty safely tell you, you're gonna see us with one anyway, because I think,
that's fine. If you
I think that if we get,
volunteer it,
just let me say that on public, is that I'm pretty sure you're gonna see it anyway. Because Dan needs to get, he needs to get control on all these properties, and he thinks that's the way he can do it and legitimize it with internally, as you might imagine, purchase orders and what have you. So-
This isn't the only Raytheon property in Massachusetts.
It is
that
not,
what you're
no,
saying?
no, we work on a few of them, we work on Marlboro, we work on a couple in Andover, and so, so yeah, I may get fired now, who knows?
So, aside from that conversation, I'm just gonna read off the conditions
Thank
in
you.
case there's an approval.
Is this a public hearing?
Yes.
It's,
It is. Public.
Well, before we make any motions or make any conditions,
yeah.
do we wanna hear from the public?
All
Not
right.
that there's a big crowd out there.
This being a public hearing, now is the time for anybody to come up and by the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court, you can be as rude as you want to.
yeah.
But I ask that you not. But not seeing anybody get up, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
I'll second.
Sorry, Steve.
I was wondering in one of your earlier hearings of whether you had a regular, who
We
always
did,
does, who
but-
always does the first, and everyone's looking at Steve, and I'm going, is he
Well, I
not-
mean,
not
Pat,
figuring
Pat,
it
we
out?
were giving him his glory, but
You have to close the public hearing prior to me reading this off.
What's that?
You have to close the public hearing prior to me reading this off.
We don't have to close it until, but.
I have the motion and I have the second, so go ahead and then I will take votes afterwards.
Good idea, Joe.
So, if the commission chooses to issue a order of conditions for this project, they can do so with these following suggested conditions. Standard conditions, number 1 through number 4, and number 9 through number 19. The following special conditions. Number 1, and please feel free as the applicant to kind of interject if you disagree.
Appreciate that, thank you.
So number 1, install and maintain sediment controls, which shall include a properly entrenched silt fence and/or staked compost filter tubes around the area of construction as to prevent the deposition of sediment from construction activities into nearby wetland resource areas.
Acceptable.
Sediment control shall remain in place until all areas of disturbed/loose soil and other erodible materials have been stabilized at the site. Prior to any construction activity commencing, the following must be completed. Sediment control shall be installed by the applicant or an agent of the applicant, and the conservation agent shall inspect and approve of the installed erosion and sediment controls. Number 3, the erosion control and sedimentation notes and catch basin sedimentation protection notes on drawing number L-1 of the approved site plan shall be abided by. Number 4, sediment controls shown on the approved site plan shall at least consist of a 12-inch diameter compost filter tube. Is there any,
Yes, it's good.
number,
These are pretty much standard so far.
so number 5, alternative equivalent sediment controls may be approved by the conservation agent. Number 6, the reconstructed and restored area note on drawing L-3 of the approved site plan shall be abided by, in addition to the planting and seeding table that is provided. Geez, wow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Number 7, riprap aprons near wetland areas proposed to be replaced shall not expand in spatial extent compared to existing conditions.
Good idea, yep.
So prior to the riprap apron replacement, dimensions of existing conditions shall be provided to the conservation agent such that whatever is replaced can be compared to confirm the apron has not expanded in size. Does that make
I
sense?
believe I understand, I believe I understand, and I think that's a good idea, I think, for the force our contractor to say, this is where my limit, like, this is where my actual limit's gonna be down there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
okay. I think this is number 8. Number 8. An as-built plan of all completed work shall be provided to the Conservation Commission upon the filing of a request for a certificate of compliance. The as-built shall be prepared by a professional land surveyor and/or a professional civil engineer licensed in Massachusetts. Number 9.
Good.
After the conservation agent has inspected erosion and sediment control devices, construction monitoring report shall be submitted to the Conservation Commission's office every 4 months. And so let me just finish this, then we can.
That's okay,
Yeah,
that's all right,
yeah,
I
yeah.
understand. It's
Every
really
4
appreciate the
months.
fact you had a draft done already, that's
Yeah.
great.
And until construction has been completed, the construction monitoring report shall include, but may not be limited to, information related to recent construction activities, maintenance/replacement of erosion and sediment controls, et cetera. So I think you said that it would only take a few
I
weeks.
think you should ask for a weekly report.
Okay.
That's fine, we get a weekly report. I gotta think this is gonna move fast, maybe it'll take 3 weeks, maybe it'll take 4, but they tell me it's gonna take just a few weeks.
Okay.
I think.
I'll add to that condition.
Because let me say that if it rains, if we get rain, if they get everything set up and then there's a set of rainstorm, they're not gonna do the work until they know they've got a good period of time where there's not gonna be rain, so.
I just wanted to add to that condition that, like, if something goes wrong or whether it's delayed after construction is, then allowing the agent to just extend the frequency in which they're delivered, so,
Sure,
you know what I'm saying?
sure.
I believe number 10, so this is kind of more of a question that I wanted to get back from. So, and again, I didn't know how long this was going to last, but some of those are, areas of construction are pretty steep. And normally there's erosion control as opposed to sediment controls proposed, like erosion control blankets, stuff like that with a steep slope. Is there
Yeah.
anything to that nature that you think, with a short time frame? I think it'd still be something good to like stabilize that area.
I'm pretty sure we call out for Excelsior blankets in these steep slopes, I'm pretty sure we do. It's anything over, anything greater than like a 3-to-1 or a 4-to-1 even, I think. But yeah, no, that's, if you want to put something in there about, yeah, we do.
Okay.
Erosion control blankets, for slope stabilization. And it's, I gotta read the real small print. Oh, I gotta keep, yeah, we call for it on slopes. I can't read it, damn it.
What's the site?
It's on, drawing L6, lower left-hand corner. Yeah, we've done this a number of times, I think, so.
Okay.
We've been doing this for 40 years. Let's see here, it slopes is, it's a, you know, it doesn't say that. It's probably in notes someplace else, though. We'd never not have that. And you can see we have the detail on there.
So where was something called out? L6?
On L6, the detail's in the bottom left-hand corner of L6, that's the detail. But in the notes on sediment control,
So, yeah, I see the detail, but I didn't see it called out, I guess.
stabilized slopes. Well, I think you'd be safe to say that any slopes over 3-to-1 would need to be hydro mulched and stabilized with disturbed slopes greater than 3:1 with erosion control blanket. That would be.
Yeah. All right, so that will be my suggesting
Yeah.
condition.
Because that's what we'd use, I'm gonna
11.
presume it's in here someplace. I think you guys probably see that all the time.
All right.
Yeah, we don't want the slope going down the hill, that's for sure. One violation is enough.
Oh, I thought you were going on to the next one, which would be 11.
Yes, that's true. So yeah, for 10, so erosion control blanket shall be applied for slopes at a 3-to-1 ratio. And this last one is kind of just a reflection of the performance standards for wetlands. So it's so number 11 would be the restoration of wetlands derived from temporary alterations as shown on the approved site plan shall achieve at least 75% vegetative growth within 2 growing seasons from when restoration efforts are first implemented. Once the restoration efforts are first implemented, annual monitoring report shall be submitted to the conservation agent thereafter. Monitoring report shall summarize activities conducted to date relative to restoring wetlands and what additional monitoring/activities may be needed to achieve at least 75% vegetative growth within affected wetland areas.
Yeah,
If-
that's good. That's right, that's totally acceptable. I think that, I guess I have a question to ask on that. When we get the pipes in and we get everything stabilized, let's say maybe all the wetland growth doesn't have that 75% yet over 2 years, would we be able to, do you issue partial certificates, or you want to wait until all the wetlands are done? What do you guys normally do?
No, I would say normally, we only issue partials, or historically it's been for like subdivisions for individual
Okay,
lots.
understood.
Yeah.
That's fine. When a complete, a
Yeah.
piece is completely done.
Yeah,
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to know when we should expect to
okay,
do.
The-
We'll be collecting the as-built stuff though right away though.
okay. The last part of this was, if sufficient vegetative growth is not achieved over the first 2 growing seasons from when restoration efforts first begin, additional planting efforts shall continue in addition to the requirement to submit annual monitoring reports until 75% vegetative growth or greater is achieved. And that is the last of it.
That's good. All those are acceptable to Raytheon.
And the commission had already approved it as a limited project and is okay with everything that's been proposed on the site plans.
Okay, so we have to close the public, now we go and close the public hearing.
So,
I really do appreciate you having already done that work, Joe. We know some of it's off the shelf, but not all of it.
all right, so for the public hearing, we already have a motion and a second. All those in favor of closing, please say.
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right, and now, could I have a motion to approve the notice of intent as discussed at this meeting with all the conditions we just talked about for John G. Crow Associates, Inc. of Bedford, New Hampshire, on behalf of Raytheon Technologies, Inc. of Andover, Massachusetts, 100 Apple Hill Drive, Tewksbury, Massachusetts, Assessors Map 38, Lot 2, DP file number 305-1177. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I don't know who's first.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, maybe do you need to make some kind of action or vote on the violation? I think as Joe had pointed out earlier, maybe saying that it has been considered and handled by the notice of intent of the previous hearing, or whatever you need to do.
So,
Joe's probably got it written up already.
We typically don't vote on violation notices, or do we close them out after after the notice of intent has been completed?
so it's basically just a general understanding of, like, an agreement has.
Yep.
There was a conclusion of what to do next between the commission and the applicant, which was to follow the sediment control plan within the notice of intent. With the stipulation that I go out on site with you guys to do the kind of reconnaissance.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's in the record, it's in the ether, so that's kind
Yeah.
of like our agreement to do that, and so that's what we'd be going for.
What he said.
It's in the ether.
So I'm good. We're good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for all the time you've spent on this.
No, it's, no, appreciate all your help and, on this and Joe's help.
Oh, we all love Joe.
Yeah.
Great.
All right.
Good night.
We'll see ya.
Thank you.
Agenda item H, conservation land acceptance, 2347 Main Street, assessors map
that
95,
on
lot 96. Joe, can you fill us in on the details for that?
So this is a property along Main Street, being donated to the town, suggested to be under the Conservation Commission's, acceptance. And I think that's just whether the commission wants to accept it. Take a vote.
Anybody have any questions,
So
comments,
it's mostly
issues?
wetlands.
It's
I think there's-
unbuildable,
It's 6 point something acres, and I think only like a half an acre, I can't seem to find that one
yeah,
email you sent
from
me.
what I remember, there was basically, you can't
And
do
it's an
anything with
island.
it. Right,
I mean, yeah, going over there doesn't seem
Right.
like you'd want to, even if you
Right.
really could, but.
I mean, I say yes.
I would too. I don't know.
Could I have a motion to accept the land under conservation? So moved. Could I have a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right, any old business, new business, administrators, reports?
I just have the new business where I want to thank you all. Had a great time. It's been a long time, but, yeah. I loved working with you guys, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. I see all your friends in here.
Is
Hey,
this
you
your
got their
going,
vote.
is this his going away party?
All right, with that, could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well.